Thank you, Chairman. So, Deputy Commissioner, so in terms of the dollar amount from the EPF, how much, any sense of how much, and I'm a little confused, are we still doing that now, or have we suspended using EPF funds? Are we still using those funds?
This is prospective as of April.
Right, we had stopped doing it in 2011, and we will just use, again, we've continued to have household hazardous waste funds from the EPF. We will just make e-waste an allowable use as well.
Okay, so do we have a history? So we have a history of providing reimbursement through EPF, is that accurate?
For the program.
For the e-waste?
As part of household hazardous waste collection programs.
Have we been able to determine what that represents, that portion represents out of EPF? Do we have a dollar figure that we're spending from the EPF for e-waste?
We do not.
Okay, I'd just be curious about that. Secondly, one of our previous testimony suggested from an earlier witness suggested that there was a tax credit. Is that accurate? I'm not up to speed on that. Do manufacturers have a tax credit?
Could you repeat that?
Sure, I'll come closer. Sorry. Previous witness suggested that there was a tax credit to manufacturers. I'm not aware. Is there a tax credit?
I believe there was a reference to credit of pounds of equipment accepted against the acceptance standard obligation, not a tax credit.
Oh, understood. Okay, so that was my confusion. And I guess the last question I would have, is there some way, and does it make sense to find some way to, if it's not working with the individual manufacturers collecting, to go back and derive funds from the manufacturer in lieu of collecting and put it into a centralized fund that can be used for either new business startups for recycling or for offsetting costs to municipalities for collection and disposal?
Well, there currently is the option of manufacturers getting together into collectives. They have the ability to do that or not. What we have is the requirement that they collect one way or the other. To mandate that they use collective organizations in the way you described would require an amendment. So just to be more concise, so if we're in the process of pursuing manufacturers to meet their obligation, there's a cost. There's a cost to them and a cost to the state. If that cost were provided and quantified, and somehow we derive the monies from the manufacturer to put into a fund that could be used to reimburse the localities or be used to stimulate investment in startup recycling companies. Does that make sense? It's just a question. That's something we would want to think about and perhaps have a discussion with you. We're not off the top of our heads inclined to say yes to a new fee on industry. We have a program that places responsibility on them, but we are open to thinking about that.
Yeah, so my only, and again, in my opinion, it's a function of semantics. So if there's an obligation, there's a cost. So the question is, the cost is not quantified, and it's not equally applied for enforcement or lack of registration or for whatever reason. So that's my only question, is there's already cost and a financial obligation. What's the best mechanism for securing those resources and making sure they go to solve the problem? That's my only question. Thank you, Chairman.